We all know that the Buccaneers are struggling in multiple phases, whether it's running the ball, pass protection. In some instances, the defense looks lackadaisical. What do you think the true root of the issue is with Tampa this week?
Well, when it comes to Tampa and their issues, to me, I got to look at the offensive line, and it's just an issue that I just continue to hone in and week out. Because I know a lot of people will tend to focus on Brady just because Brady's an easy target as the reason why that they're struggling. But I don't really see him as the issue here. I'm watching these games and I'm looking at the highlights where Kev, he is still throwing dimes out there. Like he's fitting passes into really tight spaces still, where there's literally like an inch of air in between a defender's like fingers or hands compared to where the ball is at. And he's just still threading the needle at 45 years old. So I understand that Brady isn't playing well, and you could look at his stats and they indicate that. But overall, he's playing the best that he can based on the circumstances. And as far as I see it, this entire issue of the offense not being able to get anything generated on any positive note is based on the offensive line just not doing their job. And it has a cascade effect because, I mean, just to kind of dive into the Panthers game here, I mean, this was an unacceptable performance from the offense. There is no other way to describe it. You put up 3 points against probably the worst team in the league because let's face it, the Panthers are in full tank right now. They just traded Christian McCaffrey a couple days ago to the 49ers. They shipped off Robbie Anderson to the Cardinals a couple days ago because he was having issues with the coaching staff and Carolina didn't want to deal with it anymore. And it just seems like Carolina is just out here to just get draft picks to focus on this year's draft and next year's draft. So it really just seems like Carolina's just kind of throwing the white flag up this year. They're going to surrender this season and just start rebuilding for the future. If they're managing a tank, this is not the way to do it because, I mean, they really gave it to Tampa. I mean, to win by 3 possessions when everybody was expecting this game to essentially be a blowout because, let's face it, Carolina doesn't really have that good of a defense. And I understand that Tampa's had their issues offensively, but I imagine that 90 to 95% of the people that picked this game would have picked the Bucs easily over the Panthers. Kev, I've seen some Brady games over my time. I've seen a lot of them. Kev, this is like a top 5 L for Brady here. Like you could even include the Super Bowl ones. This was one of the most ugliest losses I've ever seen by Brady because they only scored 3 points. And they're playing against a team that, like you said in the opening, might arguably be the worst team in football right now. I mean, Brady lost to PJ Walker today. PJ Walker had a really good game. And I just can't believe that the issues that are just the issues that the Bucs are facing right now, man, this is a tire fire of a team right now, especially offensively, because they lost to the Steelers last week against Kenny Pickett and Mitchell Trubisky. And then they followed up by losing to PJ Walker the week after. These are games that the Bucs should have won by 2+ touchdowns. And they lost to both teams respectively. Man, I know we're only 7 weeks into the season, and I'm not saying that the Bucs season is over and done with and they should just start, preparing for the draft at this point. But they got to fix this offense immediately. Like the Bucs are in legitimate trouble. And I know a lot of people, like I said earlier, are going to focus on Brady and he's not playing well. But it's the offensive line. And I mean, it's happening over and over again where just the offensive line is just getting bullied on the line of scrimmage. And Brady's doing his best to just get the ball out to not get sacked or force an errant pass to get picked off. This needs to be resolved immediately. Because if the Bucs don't get this situated, I mean, they might make the playoffs, but they're going to get smoked in the first round. Because right now, this doesn't even look like a playoff team. This looks like one of the worst teams in the league right now based on how they're playing offensively. And the defense is the only reason why they're actually competitive in these games. But even after a certain point when the offense isn't moving the ball and scoring points, you're going to give up points on the other side just because you're just going to be so deflated by the fact that the offense can't get it together. They can't put up points on the board. And that's exactly what happened in this game against the Panthers. So there's a lot of issues with the Bucs right now. I think most of it is focused on the offensive line because I really think that's where, games are won and lost. They're won and lost in the trenches, and they're losing the battle in the trenches right now, and it's having basically a domino effect with the rest of the offense because Leonard Fournette is not a factor. Brady's struggling. Brady's not able to connect with his receivers because he's expecting pressure damn near every play. And I don't know how the Bucs are going to be able to fix this unless they get healthy at the offensive line. Because I think Ryan Jensen at this point might save this offensive line because he's going to miss some time. He's still recovering from an injury that he suffered in the preseason. But even then, I'm not 100% sure that the Bucs are going to be able to figure this out. They're in real trouble. And I think at this point, we really need to start lowering our expectations with the Bucs for the rest of the year. I know I kind of carried this out for a lot longer than I originally expected, but no, the Bucs are in trouble. They're in real trouble.
I mean, I agree with everything Kyle said, and like he just alluded to as well, there's not really much I can follow up to afterwards. The only thing I'm going to say here is the Buccaneers' big issue for me outside of the offensive line, they're not running the football. They had 46 rushing yards today, averaging 2.9 yards per carry. And for those of you saying, oh, it was a blowout, they progressively gave up a touchdown per quarter on the defensive side. Going into half, it was 7-0 Carolina. There is no reason for Brady to have to throw the ball 49 times in this game. There's no reason why Leonard Fournette only had 8 carries. I'm not understanding. Yes, the offensive line is weakened. Yes, they're not pass protecting very well. That doesn't mean you abandon the run game because that's going to mean Carolina's defense is already going to sit back and wait for Tom to throw the ball. Tom was only sacked one time, but he was hit a couple more times outside of that. And like Kyle said, he was being rushed. He felt the pressure and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to drag it out. But let's give credit to the Carolina Panthers for capitalizing on the Buccaneers' negligence, or should I say maybe even lack of preparation. I don't know what you can really say. PJ Walker goes 16 of 22 for 2 touchdowns. He had a QBR of 74 and a passer rating of 126.5. I'm not saying that he's an MVP or anything like that, but he needs to be given his flowers. This was a great game against a phenomenal opponent. Again, like Kyle said, it's like a fire sale in Carolina. They're looking to get rid of DJ Moore. They're trying to shop Burns. They're obviously just got rid of CMC. There's just so much going on right now, and they really need to be kind of like, credited for this win because I know nobody on earth predicted Carolina to win. So I'll give them, credit where it's due. But yeah, the Bucs 100%, they're in trouble, and if they don't turn this around quickly, Brady might change the comment that he just had this week in the media to say, I'm not going to retire later. I'm going to retire right now.